Right, this is 3b. We're told to solve this inequality and give the answer in interval notation. So I think you should be able to see already that this is a quadratic inequality. So what we do with the quadratic inequality is take everything to one side, multiply out the brackets, and then simplify as far as possible. So I'll multiply the brackets out. So I should have 9x minus 3x squared, and then I will take these terms to the other side. Now when I take the terms to the other side, the inequality will remain as it is because I haven't divided or multiplied by a negative term. So this is positive 3 when it goes to the other side, it is negative, and this is negative x when it goes to the other side, it is plus x. Okay, so I can collect my like terms or group them. So I have negative 3x squared, and then this 9x plus x, this is positive 10x, and then this minus 3 is alone. Okay, so all I've done is bring everything to one side and then collect or combine any like terms that I have. Okay, so with this quadratic equation, what I want to do is I want the leading term, that is the term in front of the x squared, to be positive. So I will divide throughout by negative 1. And when I do that, this inequality should change the direction it's facing. So when I divide this by negative 1, it's 3x squared. When I divide this by negative 1, it becomes negative 10x. Divide negative 3 by negative 1, this is plus 3, and then my sign changes direction. Okay, so you can still factorize this as it is. That is still fine. I just prefer to factorize it when I have a positive leading term. Okay, so factorizing, you should know what to do. You multiply these two terms together, the 3 and the 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Then you look for two numbers, so I multiply them. My answer was positive 9. And then I look for numbers that when I add them, they give me negative 10. So two numbers, when I multiply them, the answer is positive 9. And when I add them, the answer is negative 10. The only way to really know these or how to get those numbers is if you've practiced, you should know your times table. So two numbers multiply to give me positive 9, and when I add them, they should give me negative 10. I'm sure you can say, or you should know that those two numbers are negative 9 and negative 1. So my two numbers, negative 9 and negative, sorry, this is negative 1. Okay, so not negative 10. So when I multiply these two, negative 1 times negative 9, the answer is positive because the negative times the negative is positive. I say negative 9 plus negative 1, that is equal to negative 10. And then this term in the middle, I split it up using those two numbers. So I should have 3x squared minus 9x minus negative 1x, which is just x, and then plus 3, this is less than or equal to 0. Okay, you can see here I have negative 9x minus x, that is 10x. So these two are still equal to each other because this 3x squared, there it is, this 3, there it is, and now this 10 here, I've rewritten it like this. The only reason I do that is when we're factorizing, we're grouping. So I want this to be one group and then that one to be another group. So when there are three terms, I can't really group them fairly because I can say these two together, then what about this one? Or those two together, then what about that one? But if I have four terms, I can say, okay, these two make a group, those two make a group. Okay, so that's the reason why I do that from there to there. Okay, and I look at the first two terms and I say, what do they have in common? I factor out the highest common factor, which is 3x, And then I say 3x squared divided by 3x, this should be x. And then negative 9x divided by 3x, this should be negative 3. And then the last two terms, what do they have in common? Just negative 1. So I take out negative 1, and then I say negative x divided by negative 1. This is positive because negative and negative give me positive. And you should always check that what you're doing is correct, because if I multiply these two, they should give me that. I have 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times minus 3, this is minus 9. So I know I've factorized that out correctly. And then minus 1 times x, this is minus x, and then minus 1, so I say 3 divided by minus 1, this is minus 3, and this should be less than or equal to 0.